حريرية البلدية City Hall.
不管了，反正等一下就是越接近我们那边现在毛衣，我看看。对，那个里面。
I was always, in some sense, a vicarious Israeli. I always felt that this is where I was meant to be. I was very conscious of the fact that my generation was the first generation of Jews to grow up with a sovereign Jewish state. This is something that Jews had dreamed of, prayed for, longed for 2,000 years. And it happened just before I was born. I grew up in a Holocaust survivor family in Brooklyn, in a neighborhood called Borough Park in Brooklyn, which was at that time probably the world's largest concentration of Holocaust survivor families. And that, of course, shaped my worldview. And growing up, I was a very angry young Jew. I saw my life's purpose to be a fulfillment of my father's life, to be an extension of his life. At the time, I was part of a group that was publishing a kind of bohemian Jewish newspaper for basically for East Village Jews called New Jewish Times. And don't forget, New York in the early 80s at East Village, this was the capital of the punk movement. It was apocalyptic, it was bizarre, it was intense. It was the Ramones and television and Patti Smith. I began to realize that my Jewish life was the diametric opposite of my father's. My father was part of the least fortunate generation of Jews in history. I grew up at a moment which was the exact opposite of what my father's experience had been. And so the distance between my generation and my father's generation should have been measured in centuries rather than decades. I gradually came to realize that for me to fulfill my life was not by being an angry Jew, by playing out post-Holocaust rage, but quite the opposite, by saying, wait a minute, we've actually survived. We don't have to be angry. Why have we survived for thousands of years? What is it that we've been carrying? Why do we exist? And we've come back to the place of our origin to try to figure that out. This country has never had a moment of real peace in 70 plus years. And so Israel is a constant pressure cooker. If it isn't war, it's terrorism, it's boycotts, it's denying our legitimacy, our right to exist. It's our neighbors trying to figure out how do we undermine this little country's existence. The hard gift of Israel to the Jewish people is to deny us the psychological comfort of being a victim people. When I look at our situation with the Palestinians, what I try to do is enter into the complexity of what our dilemma is. On the one hand, we live in the most dangerous region on the planet, and that means that we have to be always alert. We have to pay careful attention and take seriously when the Palestinian national movement denies our legitimacy. And on the other hand, we can't allow ourselves to play the role of victim because we're not victims anymore. If there's going to be peace here, it's going to be made by people on both sides who love stories, who love their own story and understand the need to honor the other side's story. That, for me, is a prerequisite for creating a peace that is true to the East, that's true to where we are.